Hey guys, video 2. The video today is about why I'm not voting. And why that is valid, even more valid than anybody else who may be voting. I live in California, right? And most people say when I'm not voting, when they find out I'm not voting, they basically say, well, your vote counts. Well, my vote really doesn't count. California's voting for Biden. If I want Biden to win, he's going to win California. If I want Trump to win, he's going to lose California. So my vote, especially in this state, is kind of meaningless. Just as I suppose a vote for Biden is meaningless in a state like Mississippi, right? But that's not why I'm choosing to abstain. That is what people hear and accuse me of, which is not the case. And I want to talk about certain things. The vote is a very important part of our process. But as I will get to later, the vote is broken. And as I alluded to in my coronavirus video, I don't have proof, but I wouldn't be surprised that McConnell and Pelosi, Schumer, McCarthy, they have a maybe even unstated agreement to just try to win votes with lies. They all know they're full of it. And they've agreed to not be honorable and talk to us like adults. They talk to us like children. And part of it has to do with the human condition, I feel. I feel that the human condition is particularly poignant in politics. I don't doubt that all of these members of Congress and the Senate, I mean most of them anyway, I don't doubt that they started their careers idealistic in wanting to make a change. But with power and the necessity for politicking and rhetoric, it becomes a sliding scale. And very few, if any, politicians in America today, I feel, are authentic. And some say that that's why Trump won the first election. At least we know where he's coming from. I don't know. I don't really care. All I know is I feel we're in a Sophie's Choice situation. No matter who we choose, it's going to be bad for our country. And I can't, one, in good conscience, vote for either party. And two, well, the vote is meaningless today. And I'll try to explain why I feel the vote is meaningless. With that said, I'd like to get to the end of this video, and I hope that I can convince some people why abstention is a valid position, even though its impact has been reduced. Who cares if I choose not to vote? Well, let's start with that, okay? We don't live in a true democracy. We live in a representative democracy. We elect our leaders to enact laws, and we hope that it's in our best interests. I don't believe that to be the case anymore, if it ever was. Part of the reason is we vote based on our own short-sighted view of how the world works, how this country works. And it's always been that way, but there's something that's happening with technology that has changed the entire dynamic. It's not just that families vote together anymore. As a matter of fact, families don't vote together anymore. And I imagine back in the day, families voted pretty consistently amongst each other. I don't know if that's true, but I suspect that to be the case. Why are we in the midst of a problem? Because our politicians are trying to evoke our emotions to win. They're not trying to evoke common sense. They're not trying to evoke reasonable discussion. And I think the internet has something to do with that, because it's not my idea. It's an advertisement I saw in Masterclass, Neil deGrasse Tyson. You know, Google is the ultimate confirmation bias. No matter what you put into that search engine, you're going to get a dozen results that agree with what you think. If I think the earth is flat, I'm going to get results. First page, second page, probably. If I think that the earth is round, I'm going to get results. And they both, from the perspective of looking into the screen on my computer in Google, both seem equally valid in a vacuum without the knowledge of science, you know. What happens then is people like to be right. And no matter what we're doing, Google and YouTube, I don't think by design, has been basically a secondary unintended consequence, maybe by design, has been telling us we're right when we're wrong, individually and as a society. And we need to break free of that. We need to somehow find a way to separate the BS from the truth. This is the age of information, but for some reason, and I think it's because of the optimization of the platforms, it's actually the age of misinformation, if that makes any sense. There's a whole lot more misinformation than there is information, at least on the platforms that are easy to access. So, what do we do about it? That's why this channel's here. I hope to just have a conversation using logic, just like I said in my first video. So, abstention. Why is that a valid position to take? Well, if option A is bad and option B is bad, it's a statement. It's a statement just as valid and powerful if you do it a certain way as the vote itself. It's another tool at our disposal, just like protesting. Right? I'd like to make an analogy. Say someone, especially someone who is a gambleaholic, maybe we all have someone in our lives that has a problem with substance abuse or gambling, or most of us do anyway. Right? If a gambler in your family went to Vegas, lost his house, and tried to say, I lost my house, and tried to play the victim and play the poor me card, you would look at him and say, dude, you walked into Vegas. You played the rigged game. You deserve what you got. And somehow I feel like there's an analogy there between gambling, a rigged game in Vegas, and voting in America. The game is rigged. The game is rigged, and the two parties are pulling strings trying to win this rigged game. And it's time this ends, or at least we bring it back to a place where it's not so crazy. So, how do we make the vote and abstention, because abstention being a valid form of voting, in my opinion, how do we make it work again? I don't know the answer. I do know one of the main answers is logic, real information, and communication. A voting public is useless if that voting public is misinformed. Voting public is useless if they vote purely based on emotion or how they're supposed to vote, or they're supposed to step in line because everybody in their family or in their group votes a certain way. And if they don't, then there's something wrong with them. This is ridiculous. Everybody has their own opinions. Everybody has their own experience. Everybody has their own perspective. And that perspective colors how we view the world. And the only way to fix that is to anchor ourselves to something. And that's what science is. Science is science, math, logic. It's the anchor point, right? It doesn't answer everything, but it sure as heck can keep us tethered to reality. And we're not. So I will not participate in this farce. I will not vote for two schmucks. I won't do it. Because when you vote and you're misinformed, you're giving your freedom away to people who are going to manipulate you and your family. And during that manipulation, and what I feel is divide and conquer tactics, they're going to take you for everything you've got. That's what they're doing right now. And to say the right is guilty of it, or to say the left is guilty of it, is one-sided. That's not to say that there are good senators and politicians out there. Some of them may even feel or convince themselves that they have to play this dirty game. Some of them might still be good people. Probably. And they're trying to win battles cheaply in order to try to do good, in the best case scenario. But in doing so, they betray their own goals, and they betray the American people. And by not at least trying your very best, if you are going to have the audacity to vote, you better know what you're voting for. And I can tell you this, I know more than most. And on some level, I feel like I don't know enough. Because the information is being compartmentalized and put in a place that we can't reach it. The truth, it's hard to tell what's up and down. So that's why I'm building this channel. Start from logic. Go from there. And at least identify those issues that logic can address, so we can move on and do something else about some of the issues that we have facing America today. And I guess that's pretty much it. It's not exactly where I wanted the video to go, but in the interest of just keeping this real, that's where we're at. We need to inform ourselves. I need to inform myself. And hopefully through conversations, uncomfortable conversations, the freedom to say what you want to say, even if it's horrific. Because if you don't say what's horrific, you won't get corrected. And that little bit of evil that exists in all of us. It thrives in hiding. So let's start having informed conversations. And hopefully, maybe, let's get back to a place where there is no extreme left or extreme right. And there's just a left and a right. And there are people, I'd like to say, if you vote if your opinions on whether it's climate change, abortion, gun rights, or whatever, right? If you vote all right on all topics, you're probably an idiot. And if you vote all left on all topics, I'm sorry, an idiot's not the right word. You're ignorant of the facts. Because the truth just doesn't exist completely and solely on one side of this political spectrum. America works when the right and the left play a healthy tug of war of informed, intelligent ideas. But we cannot expect our politicians to have those conversations if we're not having those conversations. So it's time to start having those conversations. And until those conversations are happening in large scale, I cannot and I will not vote. I will not add to this farce. So, that starts with love and forgiveness. And we need to somehow get there. Start with your family. This coronavirus, a lot of people are stuck at home with the people that know how to trigger us the most. So practice there. Practice the logical muscle in the heat of an argument with your significant other, your parents, your brothers and sisters. And maybe then we can start to practice that with our friends, our community, and across these lines that we've drawn in society. The answer is not accusation. It's, quite frankly, it's compassion. Putting yourself in the other person's shoes. And I believe one way to do that is to tether yourself to reality as best you can by identifying those things that are just true and trying to see what you can build from that foundation. And once you've done that, you can start to deal with the gray areas. The gray areas that our politicians on both sides cherry pick. False numbers, false studies, statistics. There's nothing wrong with statistics. Statistics is solid. It's the people who utilize them incorrectly. So more on that on this channel. And I guess that's pretty much it. Stay informed. And just give a stranger a hug. Well, maybe not coronavirus. But, if you've been wearing your masks and you know you're not sick, give a family member a hug. Or maybe you can give them a gift or whatever. Stop trying to win arguments. Stop trying to beat other people in conversations. Start trying to grow. You grow when you fail. You grow when you realize you're wrong. You grow in those moments when you're not exactly succeeding. So don't be afraid of that. And I guess we'll go from there. Video 3 coming up soon.